Okay, this is my attempt at trying to show you how to do a frame. This is very basic, but these are the supplies that you need. Cheap frame from Michael's, $1. When you pull the wrapping off of it, be sure to rip the staples out of the back. Usually if you hold on to the little plastic tag, it'll come out. Hold on to your wooden dowel, you'll need it. Decide how you're going to do your frame, if it's going to be a horizontal or a vertical frame. Pattern paper, you need paint. To paint your frame, you primarily want to paint the back and the inside, and I'm going to take that out. You're going to need sandpaper, either fine grit sandpaper or a sanding block. A smaller brush to get the inside grooves when you paint, a bigger brush to get the bigger parts, and then I usually use a foam brush with Mod Podge. I use matte. You can use any kind because you're not going to see it. You're just using it for adhesive. Need an X-Acto blade and a cutting mat for that so that you can cut. So let's get started. Okay. You're going to want to, when you paint, the back is primarily what most people are going to see. You're going to want to paint the inside bevel. When you paint the front, you want to make sure you paint the front edges, side edges, and then the front and around this as well, because, and you'll see later on, when we get to the sanding part, you're going to want color on those edges when you sand them down, because it'll make it look more professional. Usually you're going to need several coats of paint, so make sure you have enough to do several coats. Usually initially I just slap it on, but you're going to want to go back and make sure that you paint in the direction of the wood grain so that it looks more real. And then as you overlap, don't get too sloppy. Try and get whatever you overlap. And I make sure that I paint behind these too, because when you push them down to put a photo in, it looks pretty stupid if you don't have it. Now, I'm almost done painting the second coat, but one thing I wanted to show you was your dowel can actually become pretty handy with trying to paint around the sides and stuff. And I'm just using acrylic paint, so it dries pretty quick. I usually do 2 coats back to back. I also have a little heater in my scrapbook space, and I pop it in front of the heater when I want it to dry really quick. So I just wanted to show you that real quick, and I will come back when it's done. Okay, we're back. We got this frame all painted on both sides. Now this is the front, and it's okay for it to look like this because that's going to be covered up. And the other thing you want to make sure is that, depending on how you're going to position your stuff, that your dowel rod, that you get the paint that went into the hole removed so that your dowel rod fits nicely. So the next thing you want to do is you want to get whatever paper you're going to put on it. I'm going to make a horizontal frame. So what you're going to do is, now this particular paper has writing on it, so obviously you want to make sure it goes the right way. So I'm going to flip it over. I use an X-Acto blade. It's just how I do it. It doesn't matter if it overlaps a little bit because it'll get sanded off. And so I just cut. You can obviously do this with a paper trimmer. I mean, you're going to cut, it's going to sand down anyway, so if you don't have an X-Acto blade or you don't trust yourself with blades, like some of you probably shouldn't, then don't do it. I'm obviously not being completely precise because what's the matter? It's going to get sanded off. But anyway, the one thing you want to try and be careful of is to not gouge off the paint you already have on. So this is my rough cut. And just finish getting it out. And then finish the inside. Don't mind my daughter singing in the background. She's in the shower. And I'm supposed to be supervising, but I'm making frames instead. Now there's evidence that I'm not supervising. So, alright. So, make sure, because I've done this before, make sure that your paper goes on correctly. Because I have done it where I've had to actually peel the paper all the way off. You can get your Mod Podge and your foam brush. And this is really just liquid glue. That's all it is. You can either Mod Podge the frame or you can do the paper. I usually do the paper. Crazy, you just want a coat on it. If it gets too much and it gets too goopy, then it's going to run off the sides of your frame, and it does leave a little bit of a mark. So you don't want to get insane. You do want to do this kind of quick because it does dry quick. So don't, waste time. I cut on a glass mat, so I do this stuff on a glass mat because it just washes right off when I'm done. But be advised, if you do this on paper, that it's going to stick to the paper. Okay. Just double checking. And then get it on there. That's the most important thing. While it's wet, get it on there. Okay. So what I do is I start with the inside, and this is the part that's going to make or break how well your frame looks, is how much time you actually spend flattening out the bubbles. What's really important is that the edges are adhered very well to the frame, because you don't want your paper peeling up. And if it's going to peel up, it's going to be because you didn't adhere it. If you have too much glue, it'll just start running down, and just wipe it off the frame with your finger. But just keep doing this. Put pressure on it as much as you can. Just keep going round and round. And I do this several times. Get it good, and I mean, this is really key to preventing it from peeling up, especially after you sand it, peeling off or anything. So I make sure there's no bubbles in here. Definitely make sure that all of your edges are really on there good. As you can see, I was a little sloppy on this side, and I didn't get the paper completely lined up perfect. There's a little bit of forgiveness factor in these because you've got that side painted already. If you let your Mod Podge get over the top onto the paper, it makes it hard to smooth it out, and it also does leave marks. So just try to get just enough Mod Podge on there to get it onto the frame. Now, the other key thing is that you want to let it dry. Usually a good 5 or 10 minutes will let it dry. But if you try to sand that paper when it's wet, you're going to get a big gooey mess. So I'm going to let this dry for a minute, go check on my daughter, and I'll be okay. Let it dry for a few minutes, and this is the fun part. I'm going to see how well I can show you. Usually I like to hang it over the side because it makes it easier. So let me see if this just a little bit. And maybe you can see the edge of the table here. Alright, so here's my sanding. All you're going to do is sand down the sides like this. The paper will start to curl over the side, and you just keep sanding it down. The point is to get this nice, smooth, rounded surface. If you sand hard, obviously it'll sand the paint off, but it kind of gives it that, I don't know, whatever, polished look or whatever. So you're going to do it all the way around. This is a messy project, so just be prepared that you're going to have a lot of dust. I have a carpet here, so it doesn't really matter to me because I just vacuum it up. But if you have a floor, just be advised, whatever you're standing on, you're going to make quite a bit of mess. And the other thing I was going to say was make sure with your paint brushes after you're done painting and your Mod Podge brush that you wash them right away, because otherwise that stuff just is going to ruin the brushes. So I will finish sanding this. So obviously the inside sanding is going to be the hardest part because you have to manage in there. I prefer a sanding block, but you can certainly use sandpaper. If you're using a smaller frame, it's sometimes easier to get into the tight corners. If you want to distress the rest of your color, you can do that as well. I'm not going to, but you can. So this is your basic frame, and It should be completely smooth. You shouldn't be able to peel up any of the corners or anything. If you're peeling them up, you need to put some Mod Podge back under, just like with a Q-tip or something. So from here on, it's just up to you for whatever you want to do for creativity. I just cut this out real quick off the Cricut and was going to just apply it with 3D pop dots, but you can do anything. I'll probably distress this a little bit first because the rest of the frame is distressed, but you can do anything. I mean, you can put ribbons, you don't have to stick with one piece of paper, you can do several pieces of paper, you can just, the sky's the limit. So this is how you get the basic frame going, and the decoration is up to you.